Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast, where we focus on optimizing the well-being and best practices of insurance and financial professionals today. On this show, our objective is to help you optimize your life, optimize your profession, and learn from other optimized advisors. I'm your host, Scott Hoenle. We hope you enjoy the show. Hello, you two.
Good morning. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon, yes. Welcome to the Optimized Advisor, our studio.
This is really cool.
This is really cool. I'm impressed.
So I'll introduce both of you. Let's do this properly. We're just coming from an event, actually, in Costa Mesa, where we had a room full of advisors.
Yep.
And it was fantastic.
Thank you.
Talking about a very timely but ever-changing, fluid conversation as it relates to potential legislation. So thank you for taking the day with us.
It was a pleasure. Great food, too.
It was good food.
What a nice restaurant.
Enlightening.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Educated and informed, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Which is what we're here today to do as well.
Yep.
So Jeff Hoenle, longtime advisor with Producer's Choice, yours truly. Thank you for your trusted partnership over the years.
About 20 years. And it's been
About
great.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah. Started with Blair and Dwight 20 years ago.
Amazing story. I'm sure you have a dozen, if not multiple dozen stories.
Yeah, but
of
most
the
of them are
past.
not going on this podcast.
Correct. We're keeping it G-rated.
Yeah.
Or PG at least. Yeah.
Okay, we'll stay there.
So you are a personal financial planner and insurance planning expert. You're a CEO and co-founder and lead instructor of Advanced Planning Educational Group. We'll get into that a little bit, but also the name of your financial planning firm is Platinum
Wealth management.
Yes, thank you. And Ruth Raftery is a licensed attorney and certified public accountant with over 20 years of experience working in New York City in various roles, including public accounting, product development, business development, and wealth management.
Yes.
That's a mouthful.
And
You are the Swiss Army knife of taxes and estate planning.
I've seen taxes and estate planning from so many different vantage points. It's kind of crazy.
Sincerely, this is my privilege. I'm fortunate to have you both here so that we can hopefully enlighten some of our audience on some of the things we want to unpack and talk about today.
Cool.
You had a joke.
Oh, gosh.
Or do we want to hold off on that?
No, well, it's kind of silly, but, you know.
You are a jokester. We're keeping it clean, but I feel a great way to break the ice.
So anyway, first of all, I tried a little stand-up comedy when I was an undergrad. Didn't go very far, so my fallback was being a financial planner. But I remember this joke that my son told me. My son's following my footsteps, which is really cool. Not good for his school, his education, because I'm sure he's doing this at school. But here's a joke: is visiting with your doctor, and you say, doctor says, hey, you got a little bit of a weight problem. Well, I've got a lot of weight problem, and I respond and say, doc, the problem is obesity runs in my family. His response is, no, nobody runs in your family.
Right. We'll have many more of those.
Yes.
So, Jeff, you and I had a conversation virtually, which was actually our episode number 34, where we talked predominantly about you as an advisor, your journey in establishing your practice and kind of where you're at today and what the firm looks like now and into the future. So for those who haven't or who would like to after this, certainly tune into episode 34. Ruth, you and I, Danielle, am I correct? And that was our last released episode, which was episode 38.
Yes.
And we honed in on a little bit about, your journey in the professional career and your past, but also some timely potential tax. We touched on a few things tax related.
Yes, we did.
We didn't want to dive too deep into that.
It's an area that's changing kind of by the day at this point, so it's hard to dive too deep right now because what we talk about today might be dated by tomorrow.
I know, and to your credit, you were tempered in what you were willing to divulge. Intelligent, good on you, as they say down under.
Yep.
So, APEG. What is APEG? I want to hear it from both of you. And I think, in fairness, the lens at which you both came to be was obviously a little bit different.
Yep, it was. APEG it's an acronym, stands for Advanced Planning Educational Group. And APEG was born out of the idea of how do we help the industry pivot from advice to true comprehensive financial planning? How do we look at that comprehensive nature? And what we were fortunate enough to do when we came back with the journey of APEG was I fortunately was able to meet Ruth at a conference, a national estate planning conference. And the reason we met is because we are both tardy to everything in life. But so it's amazing we're actually here on time with you, but we're both tardy to everything in life. And we got put at the kids' table at a group project, which was the last table to be seated, basically. Like all the misfits were put at this table.
Now, when was that?
I want to say 2014 or 2015.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, so it was quite a while back, and we got put at the kids' table, and she was with an accounting firm, and she was doing with the accounting firm. They were exploring setting up a financial arm, and so she'd call me with a question after the conference. Hey, I got a question. I want to bounce it off you. I got a question. I want to bounce it off you. And then finally, she was kind enough to get me an opportunity to do a little bit of consulting with the accounting firm to look at their options. Should I go RIA? Should I go BD? What are the strengths and weaknesses? And so I got a chance to get out to New York City, and it was really cool. And her idea of going to work is walking down 34th Street in front of the Empire State Building, and she just got her briefcase done. That's so cool. Yeah. I'm a boy from Detroit. I mean,
right.
I'm just like, this is cool. But anyway, we had an opportunity to look consulting there. We collaborated on some client matters over the years, and we had a chance to lecture for some organizations. She would take it from the tax angle, I'd take it from the financial. And we realized that was a good fit. So APEG formed around the idea of having this great fit of bringing together the accounting, the estate planning elements with the insurance, the financial, and the income planning. How do we mesh those together?
Yeah.
And no one discipline can contribute enough to make it valuable. You need to bring this together. And so APEG was born basically at a Producer's Choice event.
Yeah.
I was invited to speak at a golf outing, the educational portion, right before everyone was going to go out and have a great time golfing, and it was a great opportunity. And as a matter of fact, we were approached by Blair and
co-founder of Producer's Choice,
along with Dwight, and they said, hey, can you do more? And so I reached out to Ruth and I said, hey, this is an opportunity.
You're like, yeah, I love talking.
I do love talking. You can't shut me up. But I said, I called up Ruth and I said, hey, you want to get involved? And so we looked together and said, what is the industry short on? So what is APEG? APEG was an organization that was set up to support comprehensive financial planning. And we looked over and said, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we educate. Educate's generally a one-time thing. We educate our kids. They get done with school, but they don't go back to the 5th grade. Yeah. They're done. And then we say, how do we educate and then continually inform? And then we found that some advisors didn't have repeatable processes, so we supported that by bringing forward the repeatable process we do at my financial firm for comprehensive planning. Right. And all of this was brought together from both the financial planning perspective and in the case of, I was fortunate enough to find a partner in the accounting world that actually was pleasant to financial people. Yeah. And I brought Ruth in, and we went ahead and we were able to put together all the content around both the legal, the accounting elements, coupled with everything we know in the financial services.
Yeah. Well, like-minded students. But Ruth, your perspective of, I would say it was refreshing when you learned about Jeff and his practice and from a consumer's standpoint. So eliminating the professional perspective of you being a CPA, an attorney, licensed attorney, but more of, because your story of the way that they embraced holistic financial planning and integrated maybe insurance planning and trust planning and things like that was pretty different than what you had experienced.
Yes, totally. So most of the people that I have met over my career in the financial world are either investment focused or insurance focused, and there's not a whole lot of holistic, true holistic planners that I've encountered, and that's both from a business development perspective and knowing a lot of advisors, and from the accountant perspective and sitting across from clients, and really from, like you said, from my own personal perspective is, I know I've got all these things in my life that somehow are tied together, but no one's out there tying them together for me, right? If I have to do that myself, I'm never going to get around to it. Yeah. To put all the elements of a comprehensive plan together for most individuals, it doesn't matter how much education you have. It's daunting and it's overwhelming, and you don't even know what you don't know. So when I heard Jeff's approach to planning and his process, I was like, that's really unique. That's something that I have never seen in my professional career. And kind of, one thing led to another in terms of, well, let me pick this apart. I'm a lifelong learner. And one of the things that we always talk about with APEG is we tend to attract lifelong learners to our group because I'm always learning. I'm always looking for the next interesting thing. I'm always trying to dig deeper into things. So, that's kind of part of how APEG started, was just let's kind of keep talking. And the more, you can talk to people that are like-minded and say, hey, what about this? Or what about that? Or we could do this. That would be really exciting.
How much of your interest in this was driven of you as a consumer, as a potential client to financial advisors versus looking at it truly from the lens of, CPA or, attorney?
It's sometimes it's hard for me to separate those two, right? Because
that's
you're
who
the
you
whole
are.
person. My life and my work life just blend together. So It's hard to say how much of it is from which lens I see it from. But I think that there's.
Can I get a specific percentage from you? I'm just kidding.
50-50.
I'm totally kidding. Okay.
50-50.
Fair
It's
enough.
sort of,
Damn.
I have too
You
much.
got me.
You get too much information, so it's hard to say. If I was a regular consumer, a lot of this would not hit my radar screen.
Right.
Honestly, I wouldn't have recognized the differences, because that's the problem, right? Most consumers have no idea. They hear financial planner, financial advisor, wealth advisor, all the terms that are used in the industry. They have no way to evaluate who's different, who does what. They just don't know. So, I think having the knowledge that I have from my CPA law world, I kind of get it a lot more than normal consumers.
Yeah. Do you all have a big, bold goal as it relates to APEG? Like what's the ultimate level of achievement here?
Well, I think we got the same answer, but we'll find out. The real goal is
Ruth, will you step out of the room for a minute?
Yeah.
And then we'll come back
And you
in
could
and
do
test.
it.
Yeah, I saw this on TV before.
That was a game show, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what came to mind as soon as you said that.
Yeah, so I'll
It's
have
a
my answer.
newlywed
Yeah,
show.
Newlywed game.
Yeah.
So what I see is our industry is aging. Whether you're talking the insurance side of it, the AUM, the average age is 61, 62.
Yeah.
It's predominantly a white male, 61, 62. That's who we are. But that's not indicative of who the population of the United States is.
Right.
And so our goal is to help to be part of the rebirth of the industry.
Yeah.
We want it to be more balanced between the genders, between all the different ethnicities. We want to be respectful of how we're dealing today with the different communities and how we could say something one way to one group and it could be taken a different way by another group.
Right.
We want to be part of that rebirth, that regenesis. And it kind of goes to the why did I do this in the first place anyway? And that is, how do we make the industry better than it was in the past? What do we need to do to make it stronger and better? How do we help families? And this comes from multi-purpose. We're trying to make things better as a new industry. We want to rebirth the industry. We want to help the new people entering this industry start off with a clean slate. The second thing we want to do is we want to do it right, and we have to. In the past, financial planning, in some cases, was a luxury. Mm-hmm. If you look at our parents' generation, I know we're similar in age, we're all similar in age here. Our parents' generation was blessed with Social Security and pension benefits that more than likely would really satisfy their needs. They had their savings. We know it's part of the three-legged stool. They had their savings. But that was kind of for trips, and that was for fun.
Yeah.
And if a mistake was made, it didn't change things.
Yeah. They predominantly worked for the same company for 30 years, paid off their home. It was very templated.
It was. They lived in modest homes. They didn't go all out. And what happened was
Boomers are not the case.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. I look over and I think of my dad as the ultimate. He was pre-boomer, and he'd walk into my house and looks up at the ceiling, 2.5 stories up. How are you gonna paint that? And I grew up in a small ranch house, and it was just it was a good family home, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
But now we got this new generation, and this new generation, whether it's the boomers, the millennials, or the
X.
Gen Zers,
Right.
all those gens in between have one common thread, and that is they've got a lot harder road for retirement.
Right.
They've got a lot. They've got to discipline themselves. There's a lot of behavioral problems. They don't realize because they were so comfortable seeing mom or dad or potentially grandma or grandpa having a very comfortable retirement. It's just what people do. And so they're not setting the resources. So I believe that we need to, one, help the industry be reborn, to two, satisfy the new consumer and their real needs for financial planning.
That's a great point. On a very basic consumer level, you just think about how challenging pretty much any transaction was, let's say in the 70s or the 80s. So take, for example, getting a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I could not click the button in 5 seconds and either rent or buy a movie. You can today. We had to get on our bike or walk to Blockbuster or one of the rental places, physically get the DVD or the tape cassette, right? And the next day it had better be returned.
Rewound.
Otherwise you're in big trouble. Rewound.
Yes, or it's 50 cents.
It's a very small example of how the world was so much less efficient from a transactional standpoint. So you think about just the word discipline and mindset, extremely challenging.
We have everything at our fingertips now. Before, I'm going to date myself even further. I was in a world before Blockbuster.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say. I was like,
you
had to wait for a movie to come on TV if you were lucky, and if you missed it, you missed it.
To that point,
you couldn't even record it.
Right, and they were renting.
Yes.
There's no such thing.
I remember the first VHS I watched was Footloose. It was like, wow, we got a VCR now with the wired remote control across the room with just play and pause. But I look over at how we have everything at our fingertips, and today we don't have any discipline.
Yeah.
And we don't need it because everything's right there.
Yeah.
If we want something to eat, we can have fabulous food delivered to our house.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Major Magic Pizza.
Right. So you think about financial planning as an example. You think that the paradigm or the mindset of consumers today coming into, I'm going to say, financial readiness or a level of significance within their financial status are demanding that of what I need and what I want, I need it now. So I need a tax preparer. If I need a trust need, I want that done now. I want the investment management, insurance, what have you, all needs to be done I walk in and I need it all done now.
Well, and part of the challenge is so many people want to be able to do it at 2 a.m. They want to do it on their schedule. The younger the generation, they don't even want to talk to people. I laugh when I had the chance to, my wife and I and my son have popped out to New Jersey and we spent a little time out there. And her daughters will not order a pizza if they can't text it in. They won't do it. They got to call up and talk to a person.
Call the pizza guy.
Do they have that on an app yet, Mom?
Yeah.
No. Which one does?
I'll order it off Grubhub. I'm like, no, call the place, order it from.
Talk to a person.
Talk to the person at the pizza place.
It's truly fascinating.
Yeah.
But there's this on-demand.
But it's real to that point. I mean, we joke about it, but
it's totally real.
It is where we're at.
And people want that. But one of the things that I'm seeing now is as people get into their early 40s, where they're going now is they start to get a little concerned. Like, I've been planning, but am I in the right place? And that's where they need the comfort of dealing with a true professional. Mm-hmm. They start to look over, they're starting to sense, I'm kind of in my career now. Am I really where I need to be? And they need that comfort. They need that behavioral guidance. They need that reassurance and that direction. And a lot of what I find ourselves teaching towards now is how do you have the difficult conversations? I recall I had a client from my financial firm that was in their 40s, and they sold a house on the East Coast, and they were moving to a new community. They had $250,000 in cash. They are grossly underprepared for retirement, and they were going to take the $250,000 in cash and renovate their new home, which was already still nice. Mm-hmm. There's a sacrifice you're going to make by making that renovation. Mm-hmm. You can either invest it towards your retirement, or you can find yourself working for another 3 or 4 years.
Right.
It's not going to cost. It's going to cost at least that. And so when you have there's now a new movement that we need to, as financial planners, to help do more than just picking insurance products. It's not about just making the recommendations. It's about counseling our clients, and we really have to be behavioral scientists.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment or review. Be sure to check us out on social media at Optimized Advisor Podcast. Till next time.